We're going to take a look at the Unibet Tolworth Novices Hurdle, the feature this weekend. That is at Sandown, 2:25. Steve Mellish is going to be there. Constitution Hill heads the betting, around about 2 to 5 currently. Nick at Boinville. That's All Right, Gino, Gavin Sheehan, Jetois, Lorcan Williams, Mr Glass, Harry Cobden, who is second favourite, about 8 to 1. Shall we have one more? Jamie Moore, WizKid, Sam, Tristan Davis. Constitution Hill is the right starting point. You and I were working together when he won on first starts. He was all the rage coming into the race, Steve, and both Nick at Boinville and Nicky Henderson admitted afterwards he'd been doing some lovely stuff on the gallops at home. For all, he doesn't do much else because he's a pretty sleepy sort, apparently.
I think this is a really, really good performance. We haven't seen the second and the third since, but the second's got a rating of 135 and the third's rating, I can't remember, 100, it was in the teens. And Constitution Hill was bolted up, absolutely, always going well, always
117
jumping. 117. So they haven't had to rate Constitution Hill, but he'd be mid to high 140s, first time up over hurdles. That is a really, really good rating.
Racing
really.
Post rating of 148, and you'd struggle to, on a first start, to get anything like that, I think, anywhere in history.
You wouldn't get many. So and it by no means all out to win. I thought it was the best performance by a British novice hurdler we've seen this year, I must say.
Including Jonbon in Grade 2 company?
Personally, I think it was. But I mean, I'm not anti-Jonbon. I've just really taken with that. Now, at the moment, he might need a stiff track, which he's got again, obviously. It's soft to ground. I had no reason to think that that be a problem, but I guess that's an unknown. But I do think, despite being... it's a race I'm really looking forward to. It's a strong field, and we're going to talk about a few of them, but I do think he sets a really high standard without any improvement.
Jetois is in there for Ryan Potter and Lorcan Williams, who's won his last couple of goes at Chepstow and at Leicester as well. He's rated 125, so on the bare face of it would have to step up a little bit. Have you been impressed with him so far? Yeah,
he's dropping in trip, but you could argue, OK, stamina won't be a problem, but the races have been, both races I think have been around 2.5 miles, if I remember rightly. But he's progressive, he's done it really well. I think this is a significant rise in class, but I can see why they're going there, because he's created a really good impression. Whether he's a Grade 1 hurdler at 2 miles, or whether he's a Grade 1 hurdler, I don't know, but certainly at 2 miles, I'm not sure.
I think what's interesting, and why he makes the race interesting, for all it's not the biggest field, Jetois and Mr Glass, it would appear that you've got guaranteed pace on there, which ultimately is what I don't like it when you get a graded contest where you don't know what's going to go forward.
Well, given both of their forms over further, Mr. last 2 runs, Chepstow and his last win have both been over further, you'd think they wouldn't want it to turn into a test of speed, would you?
Now we can't show Shall We Have One More, because he ran at Ascot, but I know, I've spoken to you about the horse in the past, I know you're pretty keen on him having plenty of ability, won a Kempton bumper. What impressed you about the run at Ascot?
Well, to be fair, Tom, we were talking about this off air, and we both we're both from the same camp, really. I think that he bolts up in his bumper, beat a horse of Nicky Henderson's, really impressive. He's clearly highly regarded. He was made favourite for a race at Ascot, and I know he didn't win, but I've no doubt at all he was the best horse in the race. He pulled like a train that day. He sort of jumped himself into the lead, I think at the second or the third. He jumped superbly all the way around. He really did jump well, but he went far, far, far too keen. It was still only at the last and on the run-in that he actually gave way. If he does that again, he'll blow out. He won't, in this company, he won't win. If Gary and his team have got him to settle, he's got a lot of ability. I personally think he's the biggest danger to Constitution Hill if they can get him to settle.
I wouldn't imagine, this has just come to me, but I can't imagine you'd have many Grade 1 Tolworth winners who've never won a race over hurdles before.
No, and he was entered... No, you're right, and he was entered...
It's interesting he's willing to go there. I guess, Gary Moore is a big fan of Sandown, and he obviously considers him worthy of Grade 1 company. I do think it's interesting they are going straight into Grade 1 company with him. I
had an entry at Wincanton on Saturday as well, where he probably would have started favourite, and certainly if he hadn't, you'd think he would have won. So they've taken this option, it's the bold option. And I think they clearly rate him very highly. I think they're entitled to. And I say, they've had however long, when did it last run? 10 weeks ago now. I would imagine, or I'd be certain, they would have been working very hard on on getting the horse to settle. And if he does, and he can show full range of ability, he's pretty good.
You think he's the biggest danger to Constitution Hill? Just bring you back to the Sandown run from Constitution Hill, which you say is probably the standout run of any 2-mile hurdler so far.
In my mind,
yes.
Yeah.
He is a couple of points bigger than Jonbon for a Supreme. Do you still think that's sort of right, based upon the fact that Jonbon's had a couple of goes and he's won in graded company, and Constitution Hill still has it to prove up in grade?
Yeah, and I think he bumper win last year. He's a brother to Duvan. All that goes with it, and he's a very good horse, Jonbon. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. We don't know enough about what Constitution Hill wants yet. Whether Sandown's a stiff 2 miles when it's softest ground, and that really suited him last time out. Whether he's a bang 2-miler, or the old course at Cheltenham on good to soft ground, whether that would be see him in his full light, I don't know. Where Jonbon may have more pace, don't know. Just in purely what he achieved on his debut, I think was very much out of the ordinary.
And I think the other thing with the Supreme in mind is we know that experience can count for plenty in that race, because everything it demands, where it starts, the crowd, etc., and often the field size. And Jonbon, it has been said by Nicky Henderson on his recent Unibet blog, which is centring mainly about Constitution Hill for the Unibet Tolworth Novices Hurdle, but he talks about Jonbon likely to go to the Rossington Main. He got a bit of stick earlier on in the week with the fact that I think Frank Berry had come out and said, Nicky's struggling to find a place to run him, Jonbon. And everyone was saying, we're not going to see him again before the festival. It looks as though he'll go to the Rossington Main. There is also the Sydney Banks as well.
I hope he does, because the 2 runs he's running, and it's not his fault, have been very slowly running. The first race was an absolute crawl. They walked for ages, and eventually Jonbon was just allowed his head, and he won. And it was similar-ish last time out. I think it would be really good for his experience to run in a truly run race, because he will certainly get that, you'd imagine, at Cheltenham.
Yes, you would imagine so, exactly. So interesting to see where see him next, and will Constitution Hill pass the test this weekend in the Unibet Tolworth? We'll see.